Magdalena report. Now we welcome our guest Luba Balagova, who is a very well-known poetess, but important that you are the founder and president of the London Sochi, British Sochi International Film Festival and Awards. Happy New Year. Tell us about the festival.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, it was established in 2016. It's called Sochi International Film Festival and Awards. It's a Russian-British film festival.
So that is the, just to show our viewers,
yes,
that this is actually the program of the festival there.
Of the second edition.
This is the second?
Yes, which took place just last December. We can say now we're looking forward to its third edition. Time flies very fast.
I love the black and white, and also the artistic. This is the poster of the festival.
No, this was just one of our supporters' poster. We promote our supporters, so I just had to add this to the whole thing. The poster, actually, what you see on the catalog.
What's in the cover? That's absolutely beautiful, and also because you are with words, because you are poetess, and 7 books.
11 books.
11
actually.
books in see poetry there.
Yes, I have these books published in several languages and published as in Moscow, also in.
Besides English and Russian, you speak
Circassian. It's my native language, Kabardian. So, and obviously, I'm very much interested in Russian history. My background is a doctor of philology.
You are PhD. And I think between you and your husband, written about 30 novels in history, who is also actually, although he's American, Hollywood, but he's Jordanian born.
Well,
and between you, you've got what, like about 41, 42 books?
Yes, around.
So you are a library.
It is around that, and very productive year we had last year. Thank God my husband also keeps publishing his historical novels. I was for 2 years very much focused on my film festival, and I call it my baby as well. You know?
Well, we have just about a minute before the break. The idea of the film festival, not only connected, because there's a big Russian community in Britain, between Britain and Sochi, but also a lot of films from that Hollywood ignore. Tell us about the idea.
Look, I am British Russian, and I'm a poet, as you said, and my main field is a word. Saying a word, writing a word, I believe in a word. Word is the most important thing. And yes, I love good films. I was invited to film festivals as a member of jury, as a poet.
Right.
Okay. Although I produced films, I was a film producer of several films, even award-winning, and I wrote several scripts for films. I had few awards on that as well, but that I never thought that is my main thing. However, living in Britain, I'm British Russian, as I said, and lately I just wasn't very happy of the image that was created by media. I'm sorry, it doesn't apply on you,
well,
but I just found it deeply unfair, and as a poet, as a person of word, I thought I have to raise my voice against it, because culture and history cannot be changed by politicians. I mean, politicians should keep away from our culture connections, because what will save the world is beauty and culture, as Fyodor Dostoevsky once said.
In the beginning was the word, and you actually combine beauty and the word. We will take a break and be back after this break. استراحة قصيرة نعود بعدها إليكم. And now back to the guest, Press Kazania.
A good pronunciation of предсказание, prediction.
Predictions for 2018. Now you can tell us your prediction for 2018.
Okay,
You said we're not going to leave it to politicians, culture and people. So predict some big cultural events.
So what I feel, what is going to happen is Sochi, which is one of the biggest cultural center in the world, sports center in the world, is becoming one of the biggest film festival centers of the world.
How many in London we can actually go to Sochi? I mean, as films, as culture.
Well, because it is a Russian-British open film festival, as many as Russians. For example, in 2016 we had only 6 British, 6 Russian films in competition. This year we had 40, more than 40. Half of them were British.
Okay, half British, so about 20 British. But you had from all over the world, from Africa.
All over the world. Absolutely. The number of those films are limited, while for British and Russians are not limited. It's Russian, British. Also,
have you anything from sort of the Arab world or from
the interesting fact that the Princess of Jordan was invited to raise her voice for peace, and she actually had Princess Her Royal Highness Najla.
Princess Najla. Yes.
She actually obviously was looking very much to come to Sochi, but some political issues, unfortunately. And that's why I'm very distrustful to politicians and to politics. That's why I call for peace through the language of cinema, through word.
What about, because we will try to get one of your poems actually put in the screen later and show our viewers. But what's the state of poetry now, especially in London and worldwide? What do you think?
Well, the world of poetry, unfortunately, is becoming smaller and smaller. But as a poet, I know that to publish your poetry book is more difficult than to publish a novel. And since I'm a poet, even writing novels and poetry in verse, it's still more difficult, although my latest novel in verse became a bestseller.
Right.
The Tsarina.
But now young people use a lot of gadgets. So perhaps you can, because you have a beautiful voice, I heard you can even tell us a verse in Russian now. We can translate it later. And people can actually hear it on the phone. Give us a verse in Russian.
Absolutely. Probably, let me... What can I have my book that I gave you? Probably I will say a few lines. Probably Circassian first.
Right.
Etc. etc.
But so actually, there is actually a room for it. What other sort of cultural event you think in 2018 we look for beside the cinema? And we try to get poetry.
Well, culturally, I think what should happen is the politicians should turn their faces back to literature, to art, to people who represent the artistic world, because without any jokes, their voices are important. And poetry actually can predict. Poetry is like... to me, it's like a mission. A person who writes poetry, one thing is when you technically rhyme words, that is one thing. The other thing, like great poets who actually predict in their lines.
So if we go say Scania here, which books we can expect President Trump, President Putin and Prime Minister May to read?
Well, I would recommend them to go back to Shakespeare and to Pushkin, to Lermontov, Mikhail Lermontov, so that that would be something that they should go back to.
So, right, I would love actually to hear Trump tweeting a line from Shakespeare.
That would be lovely if he also turned his face to Russian great literature.
Well, yes, he's a great Russian literature. But I think, someone like President Putin probably will actually have a good background Soviet education in literature.
Probably Russian literature may be younger than British literature, but nevertheless, the nation that has epic, very old epic stories, that is part of literature. So the creative world, creative civilization of Russians is very deep and very interesting.
So our last prediction, if you put your hands there,
Yeah.
will we see your epic poem being performed? Let's hope so.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you very, very, very much, Luba, for actually this wonderful interview. And that's all what we have
Thank you
for
very much.
this, and we'll see you next week. Adel, you can read us a little verse in Russian.
Дальней дверью скрипнет в тишине, или ее качнул полночный ветер. Одиноко в гулком доме мне, словно я одна на целом свете. Вот опять с чуть слышным сквознячком проскользнула в дверь мою украдкой и присела на тахте бочком. Как мне разгадать ее загадку? Что ж, входи, я тебе не говорю, а в душе вопрос, что вслух не сказан. Может, это жар, и я горю, может, просто я теряю разум, коль найдется в мире кто-нибудь, кто поверит, может мне, когда я говорю все это, друг мне, будь, вместе тайну тени разгадаем.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.